We teach about a biblical Christian worldview. And as I already said, the idea is that we receive a perspective of God, how God is seeing the world. So when I give you my glasses now to you, Christian, how much do you see? Wow. So see, that sometimes or often with glasses of others, I see my hat. Do you have a strong correction?
Not so.
Not so. Yeah, but then you don't see something. So you need the right glasses. You need the right glasses to see the world. And this is what we want to challenge the Christians, really to think again about what they see until now, like Job, so and understand he was so trustworthy to God. He was a godly man, but his perspective was he understood the world out of himself, and now he could see God after this time. And this, I hope, we will not have this suffering time like Job has until we get to see him. But this is the idea of the school. We want to help you. We want to bring you on the mountain that you can see the world from another perspective. So today we understanding the time. So I think that we as Christians should understand the time, but I'm not sure how many Christians understand the time. So my observation is a lot of Christians do not make a connection between their faith and the world, or the time, or the history, or society. I probably you are agree with me, but I don't see a lot of Christians who bring these connections and are strongly interested in what's going on in the world. So secondly, I also would say that a lot of Christians are busy with the church activities. So many church activities, they are so occupied in the church that they don't have time for looking what's really is going on, what is God doing in the world. Or they are so busy in business, or not only church, but a lot of Christians are also very busy. They attend the church, but they not do more than that. And they are so passive Christians going to church. So some Christians are occupied with quarreling about different doctrines. And this I meet people, I would say, almost daily, who are so strongly hold on a doctrine, and this is so important for them, and the whole life is then probably directed to a doctrine, and they, I would say, they really not can see what God is doing in the world because they're living in so a small world. And then everything is just getting worse and worse, and so the world will collapse. And we will go to heaven, and they just waiting for Jesus coming back that they can go to heaven. I also meet people, not daily, but I meet a lot of people like them who have a bit of worldview like this. And this worldview is also connecting with the world because the whole world is in a mood of everything will collapse, the world will disappear. Hollywood made 200 films around 200 films about this revelation of Jesus Christ, as about the end of the world. But we will have a teaching about the revelation of Jesus Christ, and it's not about the end of the world. That's absolutely misunderstanding. But it's connected a bit because we have climate change or the catastrophe, and when you listen to media, then you hear all the bad news, wars here, wars there, and my children, they are afraid and ask often the question, what is the hope for the world? Do we have a war here soon? I mean, and then the historical museum in Bern last year, they had an expedition with the end of the world, called the end of the world, and you could go in and it get hotter and hotter, and then in the end everything collapsed. Historical museum, by the way. But it's funny, in a historical museum. Another story I want to tell it to you. It's not belong to the teaching, but I was in the historical museum, and I also I do teaching for teachers in Christian schools. So I was with around 20 teachers in the historical museum. Then we came in, and there is the vitrine, and under this there are stones, and the stones, one say 4 million years, the other was 40 million years or 200,000 years. And then I asked the seller, so why do you know that they that old? And then he said, I don't know it. I have to ask the professor. And then I say, yeah, please ask the professor. Can you call him that he can explain to us? And then really the highest professor of Switzerland came to us, and then he said, I don't know. That's not what we do in science. I cannot tell you what age. We only can tell you from which layer it is. But the age, that's what the business is doing, putting a name tag on. So this is, he said, the highest professor of Switzerland, say that in front of all the teachers. So just to say, I thought it was really funny. It was really funny. Somehow science don't have a lot of answers. You know that? But we Christians have a lot of answers. The question is only, do we understand that? And are we on the position to give the right answers in the right time? Good. But how many understand God's view on the time? And I think not a lot. And sometimes I hesitate a bit. And I hope, you don't have to believe what I say. You have to test it. I want to shock you that you start to think. I don't want to please you and you feel happy and go back and say, happy, God is good, hallelujah. You should start to think and get challenged in your thinking, but you don't have to believe. And sometimes, especially in Africa, India as well, they are used to just listen and take what they hear. Or a lot of Africans, you follow just what the preachers say. In the West, it's a bit different. We are very critical about everything, and so we need a bit of mix between that too. But so we are not made for just follow a teaching. We are not made for that. We are made for half revelation of Jesus Christ. And then therefore I put you on a wall that you can start to think. Good. Let's go now in. So our prayer, you know the Lord's Prayer, everybody of you knows that, and we pray it all the time. So let's start with the beginning. What does it say? You can read it.
Okay.
Or you know it by heart. Do you?
Our Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven.
Yeah. What does it mean? What does it mean? Your will be done
as it is
on earth as it is in heaven. So this should be our prayer. This should be the beginning of our prayer. So what do we often pray? Please take all the pain away and let us go to heaven, or something like this. But we should pray that your will be done on earth like it is in heaven. So if you want to pray that, then it's good. But prayer is not just a mystery. So we pray and it falls from heaven. So prayer is activity. So when we want to pray that, then we have to understand what is his will. When we do not understand what is his will, so how can we pray it? It's just fuzzy, praying God's will be done when we don't know what God's will is. So this prayer should be an active prayer and say, okay, we pray that means, Father, we want to know what is your will. Please help us that we can understand your will. And then we understand it, and then we can pray, Father, this should happen here on earth because we understand your will. And that is the Lord's Prayer. The beginning. Vishal Mangalwadi, you will read a book from him, but probably somebody can read that. Is it possible that somebody can read that? Here?
Yeah.
That's a quote from the book.
The Bible continuously changed our world. It has demolished empires and created nations. It is transforming nation into great nations, although many Christians are concerned only for their missions in heaven, mentions in heaven, and do not understand or care for what God is doing in the world. God's word has brought nations into institutional relationship to purpose, place, to govern themselves with justice and righteousness. Vishal Mangalwadi.
So I give you a summary. It's probably a bit a complicated quote, but he said, empires comes and goes, nations comes and goes. And when we look to the Bible, we can see that. Or there was Assyria, Babylon, then Persia, and Israel. Israel came and go. I mean, why? Because God is in hand. And I heard from David Aikman. He's also a WOWMer. He's an analyst of history and so. And he said, so when a nation is too far away from God, then God will judge it. A nation will not survive when there is no more God, fear of God, and everything is gone. Then a nation will disappear. So we can observe that in the Bible, but then he brought the whole history about after Bible, that it was exactly the same in history. So when a nation is going too far from God, then God actually judge it, or let's say the nation collapse in itself. Yeah. So he say that, and we as Christians have to understand that. It's not a fuzzy-feely thing. So it's just we live, we have money, there are business, politics, so blah, 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 blah. And we as Christians do a bit so finding other people receiving heaven. That's it. No. That's not. God is in hand and nations are coming and going. We have to understand that as Christians. If you not understand that, then we don't have a biblical Christian worldview. We don't can understand him. I mean, to see what exactly will happen, it's really hard. It's not easy. But we have to have in mind, so what is not godly will not survive. That's the point. So a lot of Christians probably hesitate that a bit to believe it. But we will give you arguments, or will you see. And we don't want to become radical. I mean, there are radical people who believe, no, this, and I mean, Donald Trump. I don't know what you think about Donald Trump, but I think he's too radical, and a lot of evangelicals support him, and he should save now the nation. I don't know. So I'm absolutely want to have distance from these radical people, but we have to. This have to be in our mind, that God is in hand and he is doing something. So let's come to why. So we have a why, and why we exist, why we are here, to know God and make him known. These are our two first value. You know that. Catherine, probably you heard that the first time. But the first thing is we want to know God, because it started as mission organization. And in the beginning, when you read the book, or there was the wild people go to the islands and brought the evangelism. And soon they understood that we need also education. Before you can share Christ, you should know Christ. And just to send them out would be not a really good thing. So we have to do a school, and this was called first a mission school, or first this was a mission school, then it became a DTS. But to educate people. So to know God is the most important thing. This is what we do here in the first 6 weeks, to know God. We want to understand God. We not teach so much practical application. Also, you will see some, but it's mainly focused. We want to get to know God. We want to see what He is doing in the world. We want to see what's in the Bible, why we are here, what is under our mandate, what is the purpose of life, and all the questions. So this is to know God. But the next 6 weeks, then we focus more on the spheres of society and want to learn how to make God known in all spheres of society. So the why of why the values is to know God and make Him known. We, as a worldview school, we add to all sphere of society. So, because I think this is often forgotten, and also in WAWAM, it's a really strong emphasis of distributing Bible and doing this and that and this. But now we get awakened, and there is a lot of teachings about the spheres of society, about the restoration of His whole creation. So, but I think the mainstream is still going in, let's say, the typically mission work, like distributing the Bible, building churches, and on and on. But we want to equip people to become missionaries in every sphere of society, that people can look to you and say, wow, I see Christ in you, in what you are doing. And this is not, we as a church, what often, I think it's really a mistake of the church, is often we focus only on morality. Or we say only morality. You have to give a morally good life. It's okay, it's true. But first is also the knowledge that you have to know how to do it. Because when you don't know it, then probably you're acting as wrong. So what we want that you become missionaries in every sphere of society. That's the goal of the school. So just coming to me here, just what in Malawi, I gave a booklet that you also receive from the Reformation with the chocolate to the Speaker of the Parliament. So this is the third highest highest position in Malawi. So we went to the Parliament, and we gave every parliamentarian we gave a whole booklet and of thing, and we had a speech to them to talk about democracy and why it's functioning in Switzerland and not in Malawi, or not so good in Malawi. So this is a crazy story. A student of mine, he was sitting here, and then after the school he asked, how can I apply the school? And then he grew up in the palace of the president, because his grandfather was a cook of the president, and because I think his father died or so, he grew up by the uncle. But now his generation are on the position now to be president, or are in this age of becoming presidents. And so I said, okay, we invite your people. They were in the opposition in this. We invite them to coming to Switzerland. They were sitting here in this room. They came to Switzerland, and we made with them a Reformation tour through whole Switzerland, observed the business. All what we do in the SBCW, these outings, we did in 1 week with them. Explained to them the Swiss culture and explained them democracy, and we sold it with, we said, we prepare you for the elections next year, so we give you new vision. And they came, and then the year later he became president. the one here, you see that the smallest actually. In front, not there behind, he's the president, Chakwera. So we could speak with them. My partner who is also my students and partner, he did the picture. Probably he's not on the picture. He is a friend of him, and so. But that's just the story. We are made for standing in front of presidents, standing in front of politicians, of business people, of national banks, and we will have people who stand in front of presidents and national banks and so on and so on. So we have them here. So we'll then experience them. But we are made, not all will do that, and this is not the purpose. But generally, Christianity is called in every sphere of society, and help help them to understand what God is doing in the world. So now let's start. So how do we start with that? This was the introduction. Now we are coming to the start. We have to observe. The first thing is we have to observe in the world what's happening, and then we have to think. And with God's ideas in our head. So this is what we are doing now. Look here. This is probably you never heard about that. Is GDP. The GDP is the gross domestic product, or it's which countries have which countries are rich and which are not. And there is a statistic, you can see them, and we can now go in just to see. I hope this is now not on the is it coming? Just I hope I can handle that with my mouse. So yeah, here, and that's now the page. Now I cannot see it anymore on my desktop. Sorry, I just have to change the system here. No, I cannot handle that. So I have to do it like this. So then I see the same thing as you see, or it's much better. You see here, you can look now, let's say.
Markus, can you maybe make a little
bigger?
Yeah, because I don't see nothing.
Is it good? Oh. No. Like this? So yeah. I'm going to see 1989. Who was the richest country in the world? Switzerland. You can see Luxembourg, Sweden, Japan, Norway, Finland. We can go down a bit. Are you interested in it? So probably when you think about that, you see this line. Does it say something to you? We can now go down, and then you can see. And you can see 10 years later. So Luxembourg now is on top. But think about that. Does somebody of you have some ideas about it? On 2009? Is there anything that's coming up to you when you think about that? Or is this doesn't say something to you?
I think is it relevant, this list? Because I think America's like the fifth on the list or something.
That's a very good question.
But I heard that they have a lot of financial problems. So
yeah, that's a very good question. Is this the only measurement? That's a good observation. Yeah. But I would also come to another observation. I would say it's relevant in one way. It's because I will show you other statistics. It's always a beginning to understand the nation when you look to that. So when I go to a nation, I always look to the GDP, and then it's already say a lot. When I go to Burkina Faso, I will look what is the GDP, and then it say already a lot. So here, this is 2028, the prediction, but what does it say? Some ideas. Okay. To your question, I have now an answer. Let's come. Much better would be the social progress index, or it is not only the money, or look, or the money that's more the value. It's not the money; it's the value that the country create. But the social progress index means what is how is a country developed. Look, I mean, when you look to this, you see the dark places are the developed places, like, you know, what places are very developed here? What can you see? Which areas are the developed area? The dark ones. Europe, America, Australia. What else? Yeah, Scandinavia. I took to Europe. Yeah, but mainly Western Europe, or you see, or only Western Europe, and then Japan. Can you see Japan is also, and there are dark places like Switzerland and Norway, but probably you don't see that. Oh, you can see that there, and Monaco a little. But here, when you look to this and then ask the same question, which area are the most developed area? Well, what would you say? Answer from you? Yeah, please.
It's about the same.
It's about the same. Yeah, I just want to hear that. It's about the same. So it actually has something to do with the income and the progress or the development. And we have to understand that as Christians, that it has something to do. And often Christians think, no, money is just evil, but we have to understand that. So there is a statistic as well from this Business Insider webpage to show that relationship, that when it's under, you see this curve, when it's under the curve, that means as a Saudi Arabia, they had a lot of money, but the development is still not so, it's not on the average. And when you look, like, say, to Norway, Switzerland, Netherlands is a bit up the curve. That means we have not, that it's fit not in the statistic that say it's, if you have more money, then you have more progress. We're even better in progress with less money. Does it make sense? So, but we as Christians, we have to understand such dimensions. If you not understand that, then probably we cannot really stand in front of presidents or can do that, because, or also doing first aid in Africa, we have to understand these dimensions.
Does the card goes like this? Does it also matter how far the countries are here? Or?
Oh no, how far means how much is the let's say I have to look yeah, this is the GDP. When you are more there, then GDP is higher, also money, the income is higher. When you're more here, then the progress is higher. So, and this is the line where you see when you have more money, you have more progress, and some are up the line and some are under the line. Like Saudi Arabia have a lot of money, but not so much progress. So that's the statistic. Statistic always can lie, but it's a good start to think about that. So next one is corruption. So now I ask to you the same question. what do you see? Where are the most corrupt nations? And where are the less corrupt nations? So the blue and the bright blues are less corrupt. Also the dark blues, they have almost no corruption. And so the dark ones, they are strongly corrupt, and the others between, they are a bit more. So which areas are less corrupt? The same. We have to understand it. It's the same. That's just it's the same. So now a question should arise. What question can arise? And you probably can see also here the statistic, the relationship between GDP and corruption. So when you have more GDP, then you have less corruption. Now you can say Christians say probably, yeah, but the problem is we are poor, therefore we are corrupt. But I would say, but probably you say that, but I think you're poor because you're corrupt. Do you see the difference? So one thing is you're a victim. We are corrupt because we are poor. You can do nothing against corruption. But when you would say we are poor because we are corrupt, then you can do something. So I think we have to learn to understand the world, to understand what is predicting the world. So when we not start to take self-responsibility, then nothing can change, and you cannot probably not change the GDP. But what you can change, your responsibility is first-hand corruption and morality. So it's a clear connection. And you see that this is the same picture. The Western world, this is the Western world, America, Europe, Japan, and Australia, Western world, they are different. So what is the question? What is the question? What should be the questions for Christians, for all the people? What is the question? Please help me. Let me not alone. The question is why? Why is it like this? Is it like this because it's like this? When it's this, the case, then we are victims and nothing will change. But when we start to understand why is it like this and understand the source behind it, then we can change, then we can start to do development. And this is something that we when we want to help in Africa, we have to understand that. In Moldova, we have to understand that. And we have to understand what's going on. Why is things like it is? Nations are not poor because they are poor. They are poor because they are made poor, or they are behave like this, or I mean, there are a lot of sources and a lot of injustice and misusing of the West of Africa, all of that. But it's not because it is so. It's because it was made so. So something we can change. That's the hope. The hope for the world is that we can change something. No hope would be we cannot change something. We just wait for going up to heaven. So this is, and when we look then here, you can see this is the religions in the world. So the blue ones and the dark blue ones, they are the Reformed, and the purple, is it purple? Yeah, purple are the Catholics, and my Russia pink. Is this pink? Yeah, pink. Russia, is it pink? Is it pink? Yeah. So this is Orthodox Church, and the green one are the Muslim. And the others are Hinduists, Buddhists, whatever, or atheists. So can you make now a connection between this, what we heard before about GDP, corruption, and so on, to this here? Can you make a connection? What is the connection?
It goes along with the religion.
It goes along with the religions, yeah. We have to understand that. What we have in the world what the progress, the development in the world has to do with Christianity. The Christians nation, they are the most developed nation. And there is one of the famous sociologists from the last century is Max Weber. And he wrote a book, The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism. So he actually is not a Christian. He's actually against Christianity. But he researched why nations are rich and why not? Why are they developed and not? And so this is really accepted in the universities. So he's teaching. He came to the point that it started by the Protestant. And he saw that the Protestant nations are better than the Catholics. So the Protestant nation could develop the most. And you see, there's when probably you remember that I showed you the list of the countries. So then you can see first are the Protestant countries. Secondly, come the Catholic country. Then the Orthodox country. And then the Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists. It has something to do. You can check that. You can observe that. But we have to understand this. We as Christians, as a whole body of Christianity, not that everybody need to be involved in that. It's not about that. But I want to awake you now to see the big picture once. It has to do with our faith. And he came to the conclusion the most difference was John Calvin, the preaching of John Calvin in Geneva, and we will go to Geneva, we will learn more about John Calvin, really made a difference. Because he preached that if you want to please God, then you can do every job. Every job is holy. No, you don't have to be a monk, you don't have to be a pastor or so. Every job. And so he bound Christianity, or he bound the world with the invisible world together. So he make a metaphysical painting on the world. Do you understand that? The purpose of doing business is pleasing God. Do you understand it? And he found out that this is the most developing argument that you could bring, that you not do business just for yourself, for money, for things. You have a purpose that is higher than you. We have to understand that. So business has a purpose that is higher than you, and we will hear about that, or how to do business in God's way. But this made a difference. It has a connection with our faith. So the next question I raise, why Africa is different? Because you saw in all the statistics that Africa is one of the poorest country. It's one of the most undeveloped country, unnourished, and everything. You can go to every statistic. But you see, you see here now, Christianity, 100 years ago, in 1900, there was almost no Christians in Africa. Only in South Africa and a bit in Egypt and Ethiopia. But now, how many Christians do you have in your country?
How many Christians?
Yeah, percent.
34.
34. Okay, he's living in the middle. But when you go to the south, there are counties with 90% Christians. Even Kenya, 90%. Malawi, it's about 85%. And so then for me it would be the question, why, when we made the conclusion it has to do with Christianity, now we see Africa in the opposite. What is the problem? What is the problem? Is it not true what Max Weber found out, or what I told you first? Because we see a different direction in Africa. So what's the problem? Do you want to hear it? The problem is, you can disagree, but this is my analysis. It's not the same gospel. It's not the same gospel that was preached. The gospel that was preached in the Reformation time was reform society. You do business in God's way. You do agriculture in God's way, and so on. But in Africa, there were these evangelical movements like come to Christ, have a good relationship for going up to heaven. I mean, that is in a short. It's not direct like this, but the emphasis was like that. And this is really, I told you yesterday about some stories, but this hurt my thing, because I see a lot that the development is really different in a area where not the evangelical did mission than in an area where the evangelical did mission. So I think we have to rethink. I'm really honest. I challenge you. We have to rethink our evangelism. We have to rethink our help for Africa. So that is the challenge. We are so used to go distributing Bible, and so we heard that, we learned that, we do that. But is it the right way? I do not say it's wrong, but in saying in an overall thing, we cannot only do that. Distributing Bible is probably a little thing, or belongs to the whole. Street evangelism is a little thing, but we have to first think in the whole picture, and then come up to the little spheres of what we are doing. But I think really it's not the same gospel. Obviously, it cannot be the same gospel, because it could not bring transformation to a country. And therefore, we have to rethink. And I think, let's say, India is a bit in another place, because William Carey and all the missionaries, they had a reformed thinking as they come. So William Carey, so it was India. So Vishal Mangalwadi said, it is not Mahatma Gandhi, it was William Carey who built up India and built up the democracy in India. So they were commit missionaries, came and built nations. So therefore, India is still have a big inheritance, because your evangelism happened 300 years ago or even earlier. But in Africa, we can see it. So that's my analysis. You can disagree. We can discuss about it. The last what I want to show you before break is this one, that it shows also we put a lot of aids in Africa, help, but the development goes down. And this is not just the Christians who did a mistake. I think we as a whole world, we did a mistake. We gave them fish instead of helping them to learn to fish. And therefore, they are still dependent on us. And often we misused Africa for our gain, for our goal. But we need to change our worldview. We need to help equip you and set you free, and not bind you to us. This is not just a Christian problem. That's the overall problem. Good. I have a lot of statistics here. Now, one thing that we see in the world is this, but we have to be aware of that something changed in the world. So here, Africa, Burkina Faso, you have a COP 2022, yes. And we see that when we look, there are 9 COPs in the last 3 years in Africa. It came down until 2020, the COPs came down. It was independent as the colonies became independent. There was a lot of COPs every year, pushes or every year. And it came down until 2021. And now it's extremely raised again. We can see that here in this statistic. So these nations had 9 putsches in the last 3 years. So this is a lot, but it shows something. It shows that our system that we want to bring to Africa didn't work there. So it's not just the Africans, who are wrong, but we want to educate them, we want to help them. The whole colonization was the idea of building nations, but it didn't work. So the question is why it didn't work. And we can see that not just in Africa, but over the whole world. And now I take you a bit in that. Also, I mean, let's see here how the West became, after Reformation, dominant and then start to colonize the whole world. And you can see here the development that's happened during these last 500 years. They took everything. So now South America became free in 1800. So around this time, I don't know about El Salvador exactly, but Colombia became free and all of these nations. But you can see now then after 1959, or then the colonies went back. And so, and of course, we think all colonization is bad, and let's say colonization did a lot of mistakes, a lot of misusing. It brought slavery, all of that, and it was a misuse of Africa, of other parts of the world. But the idea of colonization is God's idea. Go out to our nations and tell them the commandment of God. Help them to understand the principles. So the West received all the principles from God through the Reformation, went out to the whole world and wanted to teach it. But the problem was that God get lost in the system. And so they start still to want to teach the principles, but it didn't function. And we can see now, until 2021, we can say, okay, Africa still understood a bit. But I think now there is a turning point, and we have to understand that as Christians, a turning point in the world, that the system of the West shows really that it's not functioning anymore. So Afghanistan is another example. Why did the West left Afghanistan 2021? They had a war for 20 years, and even, let's say, 40 years, the American came into Afghanistan, but they were not able to help them. So when I'm now very bad to the Americans, but when they teach sex, drug, and rock and roll, this is what they have on. I mean, the idea of the Western civilization is, oh, we want to have a good life, everybody should be free, everybody should have free sex, and rock and roll. And also, historians say that America brought the drugs to Afghanistan, and it was not from the Afghanistan that is now a hub of drugs production. But anyway, I don't know this exactly, I didn't research that, but I know they left America or the West, the NATO, could not help in Afghanistan. And do you know what happened when they left? It went back to the old system. It's corruption, oppressions, from especially women get oppressed. I mean, it's horrible. Nobody wants to live there, and probably heard all the message. So why could the West not help? Why could the West not help in Afghanistan? They tried to do that. And this was not just, but in Africa you saw that the Democrats see what they want to teach. It didn't help, and it ended in a lot of corruption, and things are not evolved. But you see that in Afghanistan, another example would be Vietnam. It was 50 years ago with the Vietnam War. America fled from the Vietnam. Why America left Vietnam? Because they couldn't help you. And the problem was, I'm convinced the problem is the losing of Christianity, the losing the view of God, the losing of why we go and step in Vietnam or step in Afghanistan. Just to bring them democracy, to bring them freedom and free sex, drug, and rock and roll. Is this the goal? No, it's not the goal. So, coming back to an earlier story, after the World War II, probably heard about the D-Day Did you heard about that? It was the day when the Americans stepped in the war. And they actually fled Europe from Hitler and from atheism. So the story was this, that America said after the First World War, we never be involved in Europe because they lost so many people. So they say Europe have to solve the problem by itself. We will not step in again. And so that was their conviction. But then in the Second World War, Churchill, who was the Prime Minister of England, we will lose. We will lose when America is not coming and help us. Hitler will take whole Europe. And then after Hitler, communism, Russia will come and take everything. So Churchill understood that. Churchill was not, I would say, not really a Christian. His moral life didn't show that he really had a Christian life. But he understood a lot. And he understood how Christianity works. So he went to America, to Roosevelt, who was the president in America, and told him, you have to help. Otherwise, Europe become atheistic. So you now have it's now your mission from God that you come and help. Because otherwise it will collapse. Christianity will be gone. You have to come to help. It's a holy mission. You have to come and step in to deliver Europe. And so it was on a ship. In a ship they had he organized, I think it was Churchill organized the service, they prayed, everything. Because he knew that the Americans, they are strong believers. And when I want to have America, I have to find a way, how can I bind the influence in the world and the calling of God together. This is, he went to him and said that, it's your mandate, when you're not come, you don't do the will of God. So now President Roosevelt, he had this message, he went to the White House and he could convince the people, and I think in a few months, 4 months or so, he convinced them and whole America was ready to go to war. And the pastor preached it from the church. It's our mandate as Christians to go into the war to deliver Europe before atheism. It is a Christian mission. So they saw it as that. The secular world will not tell you that story, but when you Google it, you will find it. You'll find that I'm not just saying something, and I heard that from other people as well. It's not my own story or so. But I think we as Christians have to understand that. This is the reason why America stepped in the D-Day. And they delivered Europe. Europe became free. But the mandate for war was from God. It was a higher purpose than for themselves. Do you understand that? It's not sex, rock and roll. Just have a good life, have everything, have free sex. It was a higher purpose than for yourself. It's not about themselves. It's about pleasing God. And the pastor preached it from the church. You can Google that and see that. And the Americans, they wanted to go. It was their mission. They were ready to die. They were ready to die in the war because they were ready to die for a higher purpose than for themselves. And this is the reason why they were successful. But I think during this time, the next war was then the Korean War, and they were successful somehow there. But then I think America lost in the 60s. They lost the vision. And they saw that Vietnam is a problem because atheism, Russia wants to come and they want to stop. Mainly it's not about Vietnam, it was about the Russians. Want to stop that. In the end, it was a good idea, but they didn't have a higher purpose than themselves anymore. It was lost. And this was then the consequence you could see everywhere. Because America stepped in Iraq, or what's happened there? The chaos. they stepped in now in Afghanistan and so on. And there was a lot of stories in South America, you know, where the CIA did all the cups there. And I mean, Cuba, or let's say Cuba, ended in a disaster. This ended in a disaster. This ended in a disaster. So we could see my claim here, the West lost God. And therefore, they are no more able to bring the goods to the world. And we have to see that as Christians and can observe that on statistics. So that is, I want to convince you about that, but I say it now. Or the West lost Christianity or lost God, but still have the values. But the values do not function anymore. They no more function in Africa, Afghanistan, everywhere, but also in the West. And we see a decrease of values in the West as well. So coming a bit quickly through history, the Reformation 500 years ago, we will talk more about the Reformation. We will go to a Reformation tour. So this is really great. That's my highlight. So I like to do the tours. But probably Sima can do the tour. I don't know if you're ready to do it.
Maybe you.
Maybe. But we do it anyway together.
We will. It depending which week it will be.
But probably you can lead us there.
Mm-hmm.
So that not always I do everything. Because you came so many times with me
Yes.
already to the tour. But this 500 years ago, so the Bible made a difference. And John Calvin, who was the main figure in Geneva, he is called the advocate of the Old Testament. And he started to think how a political system should look like, how business should look like, how education should look like, according to the Bible, according to what God told Moses. and we will have a study about the law books of the Bible, because I think these are the foundation of the Bible. We will hear more about that. We have to understand the laws and have to understand how to apply it, because just to say when somebody did adultery with stone, then it will not help. So we have to understand how we can bring this. And John Calvin is one who made that, and therefore he is also called the father of Western society. Then this teaching, or democracy, the teaching of separation of power, the teaching about the whole economical system, and also the Geneva had the first public school where really all children have to go to school, get educated, and so on and so on. We will see that. But this was the beginning, and so the world changed. And also in science, so Geneva was not so strong in science, but mainly the English, and John Newton and Pascal Blaise and Bacon and so on, or they were all convinced Christian, and they see and Christian and science, modern science, built on Christianity, on the belief that there is a God and God is trustworthy, and therefore we can find natural laws here in the world. They are not arbitrary. Once time this and this. We can trust him. We can trust his law to stay absolute, because we trust that there is a God who has these laws in control. Yeah, so you read as well in Vishal Mandavadi book more about this. But this was the beginning of our Western world. Then with the time, 200 years later, we call this time deism. So it started, the people found out the principles, how the world is functioning, how God created the world. But more and more the idea came, now we take care of ourselves. We have the principles, but God was no more on the picture. They start to hesitate with the Bible about that. And the main thing was then observation, academics, and the natural laws. And even these laws were all good, but God get out of the picture. And they were all convinced Christian, but they hesitated a bit about wonders, prayer can this really functioning, wonders. They all took only the natural principles, and for them this was then what God is really doing. But that there is another world too, where we need prayer, where we need wonders, where God can heal people. And all of that, they start to neglect that and look only to nature. This is called deism. It's these religions. It's Christianity, but it's with focusing. We say God created the world with the principles, but now we have to find out it by ourselves. So wonders, healings, we are responsible to find medicine to heal the sick and no more just pray and so on. But this had consequences, and one was slavery, that they focused only on capitalism, making more money, forgot that we also take social responsibility. And they take about social labors, and kids have to work in industry for 14 hours. Poverty in the cities, so cities grew and grew, but there also a lot of poverty was then in the city. And I would say the next Reformation is really short social history. Next Reformation, it was John Wesley, and the historians say without John Wesley the world would look different. And he brought the English back to God. And this is really a great story, and we will look next week at film who will fit in this time, the abolitioning of slavery, William Carey, and just this fit them. But this was this movement of the Methodists who really changed again, brought again the social injustice that raised through this whole deism or whole industrialization and bound it back to God. Good. Then God blessed this nation, and so these nations, we say the sun never goes down in this nation, because you see that this was the empire of England. It has 16 more nations, but still it has 46 nations, and today it's called the Commonwealth, also the Commonwealth, and it's still you can see, but here we say the sun never goes down.
So this purple color represent England's
that's
colonialism?
England's colonies, what today is called Commonwealth. That means that the King of England, or the King of England, is sovereign over all these nations. Actually,
So are the colonies?
They are no more colonies. They are. It's called Commonwealth.
Yeah.
They are.
They were colonized by England.
Yeah.
Mostly.
So they were colonized, or the idea was more that they would bring the kingdom of God. They helped them to understand these principles. But the problem is that principles they brought from Christianity, but often not God. And this was then a big problem and ended then in slavery. But God used England because they really understood a lot of principles. And England actually is also reformed from Geneva. So you will then get to know the story, how it came to England. But see, you can see God blessed them. And the idea was colonizing the world and teaching them in all spheres of life. Go to all nations and teach them to obey the laws of God. So this they did, and a lot of negative sides as well. But then there come the time of secularization in the middle of the 19th century. That means that you think we separate state and church. Before it was together. But this didn't mean that God was no more there. You can see here the Swiss Constitution. In the name of God the Almighty. It was made 1848. So they still put God in the picture, but it was a separation between state and church. Or the University of Zurich. You see that's Zurich, this word that's Zurich in Latin. But you see, it's the church is in the middle of this. Also, the secularization means not that the church or they don't want the church anymore, and they don't want the values anymore, but it was a clear separation. That's now the state. He decides about the principles and the things, and the church is doing her stuff. And so the problem here you can see as well, Harvard University. This was actually from Reformation, but just to see, it is built on veritas. It means true, and veritas is built on 3 books. The first book is the Bible. The second book is creation, and the third book is the Spirit of God, or is logic, that we can understand God with our logic. So on these 3 was the university built. So everything was Christian principle was built. The church and the state was together, but secularization then separated this, and you can already guess what is the challenge in that. So we can also see Red Cross in this time. It was built on. We will visit Red Cross as well in Geneva. So we and it was built on Christian initiative. And today we see the red crescent. You see that? So it's no more allowed to say the red cross coming from Christianity. So now you have to hang both flags on, because we have to be neutral. So that's the consequences today. But actually it was a Christian initiative came out in this time. So, but because the Christians made a lot of damage in slavery and industrialization, and they did a lot of injustice, there was a counter reaction, and this is called socialism. So socialism then want to have the solution, and socialism shortly is, it's an anti-Christian religions. So it's Karl Marx is the father of socialism. He say Christianity, God is the problem. The problem is that we think that there is a God, and therefore people take the right to have property. And when there would be no God, then there would be no property anymore. Everybody who claim I have something is a thief. Does it make sense? So everything who has something is a thief, because when there is no God, so his ideas, or when there is no God, then there is no giver. And when you have something, so who gave it to you? Why do you claim that's my land? Or who gave it to you? Yeah, actually, without God, there is no more own property. So he abolished his own property and say everything belongs to everybody. And this is actually he understood that he will bring freedom in the world. The problem in the world is sin, and the sin is coming because you have something and I don't have. And therefore I get angry and jealous, and then there are wars. And when we abolish all this injustice and make everybody same, nobody has something, everybody has everything, then we have justice in the world. So his idea was bring a new way to solve this problem of sin. But it didn't work, and we know what's happened. Every country that became socialistic became a disaster. And first Russia faced then all the consequences. They killed how much? 22 million people between the First and the Second World War, just because of socialism, the hunger, and they could no more take care of the people because the farmers didn't produce anymore, and so on and so on. You can tell more about socialism, how does it work? But when it's not yours, then you take part of it, and it was not allowed to have a better idea than the other, because when you would have a better idea, then you have more than the other. So when they kill the people who want to have more have better ideas who want to do it in a different way, because everybody should do it the same way. And the question would arise, who controlled the one who controlled? And it ended in a brutal dictatorship. Everywhere, socialism everywhere ended in a brutal dictatorship. It didn't function. So, but this was then the threat to this world. And you know, the Cold War between America and Russia, actually it was between capitalism and socialism, or let's say between Christianity and atheism. And that was the war. And so let's say until 2000, also 1989, the Berlin Wall fall, and the socialism in this sense was dead. The idea of socialism was dead. So today, China we are communistic. They have the communistic party as their own party. Also, you know, socialism, communism is the same. It's actually two words, but it means the same. So they call them communists, but actually they are not. They are capitalists. But a dictatorship in capitalism. So, but they have nothing to do with the idea of socialism anymore. As well, Russia and all the dictators who are coming, it's not socialism. That's because it never worked. It was not built on the reality, on the creator, on the idea that everybody should take responsibility and we should take care of what we have, and so on and so on. So this is the thread. Then I think, what I observe is that the last Reformation came. The last Reformation. Do you want to hear about the last Reformation? No? Also the last. I hope one will come again. But this was what I observe in history. I mean, there are a lot of initiatives, little initiatives, but I say a Reformation that really changed society in the big. So, and this is called this one, the moral rearmament. It's 1936. Probably you never heard about that. This is really not a lot of information on the internet about that. It's really hard to find. We have Jeff Fountain, for one. He is the man of that. And he would know everything about that. So they received a hotel, also the Frank Buchmann, pastor, he received a hotel, and this is not a hotel, it's a palace, a really great, nice palace in the Second World War. Because they had no more guests, and the whole thing collapsed, and the Swiss decided to give this pastor this palais, and mainly to take care of it. and so it was a wow movement. A lot of people came and they restored the hotel, and they did a conference with 2,000 people. And in this conference, a lot of very important people came. The next president of France, the next president of Germany, and a lot of people came, and they called for rearmament. They said, we need now a new morality, a rearmament. Also, the morality, as we had the First World War, we have now the Second World War, so the system could not work. Socialism could not work, but also capitalism did not work. We need a new solution. So they came together, they had a worship, they prayed, they listened to God to give revelation to them. So that's the story from Jeff Fountain. It's really hard to find information on the internet. But I think that was a reformation. And after that is also what happened is then the UN. And I think that the UN, we also go and visit it in Geneva. That was an initiative from the Christian, and especially from Roosevelt. The problem was just that Roosevelt died before the UN really started. And then the next president was no more so a convinced Christian. I say that here, probably I'm wrong, but this is my observation. But it was built on this Josiah 2:2-4, and you will turn the sword to Yorkshire. On this, and this is I was this year in New York, and I wanted to see this this statue in front of the headquarters of the UN in New York. So this is the symbol, or we turn the weapons to really tools to help to build society.
Which the verse?
It's Josiah 2:2-4.
What is Josiah in English?
Isaiah.
Isaiah.
This is
Yeah.
Isaiah.
Isaiah.
Oh yeah, this is German. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's important. So, but another initiative in this time, Second World War, was then the human rights, and the human rights. We also have that when we go to Geneva in the booklet that the human rights are coming from the Ten Commandments, and that is an application. So how we can apply, and we need absolute values, and not everybody can define their own values. So this idea and the values are coming from the Bible. We will also go to the UN. We will not go inside at the picture inside, and you can see there on the wall that probably you know this. What does this represent? Can you see that?
Is it this picture with the finger
Yeah,
to the heaven?
coming from Leonardo, now from Michelangelo.
Michel, yeah.
Yeah, in the 16th chapter of the Vatican, or where God is touching the world. Or God is Adam with the finger and God, and they touch. So this is still in the UN building, or this is it's not a separation from UN. Is not a separation from God. Or so it's really they want to bring the principles, and they believed that they need God. Also in the beginning, and this is also a picture in the UN. This is also a picture in the UN where the five continents, the five continents stay together like this. They hold all together. That when you do that like this, or then you can sort of lay in the midst, and you will not fall because everybody holds the others. So and then there's a booklet about that, and in front of the booklet they say that beyond it's not on the picture here, but beyond he draw a dwarf and say we need God, the Holy Spirit, and hold, because the continent would collapse. Just to have this system, everybody hold one another, will not function. But see, a lot of initiatives went on. This is also in the UN, and this refer back to the Reformation. It's called post tenebras lux, from the darkness to light. Because before Reformation it was darkness, corruption, and dictatorship, and so on. And then it gets reformed through the Bible, and this is also in the UN. So just to see that a lot of things from the UN is coming from the Bible. So the main goal of the UN is world peace, and we can say, it will never happen, but I believe it's God's idea. And this is what Vishal Mangalwadi in his quote, probably you remember, Vishal Mangalwadi's quote, you will read that then in his book. But the idea is also that God, peace in the world. This is what he wants. But he cannot do it without God, or with our ideas. But his idea is bringing peace in the world. We are so glad we can have one who is in the UN, who will come and speak and will tell us more. And he's really inspiring. Or Simon, he's really inspiring. Benjamin Levy. Really, and he will open our eyes and let us see what God is doing on the level with presidents. And so it's really great that we can have him. But he is interested in world peace. And we are a part of it. And who is the best people who can really tell how can you have peace in the world? Who is that? The Christians. If you understand it, what God wants, then you will become the best people who understand how you bring peace in the world. We know about Jesus Christ. We know about forgiveness. We know about the hearts. We know about the sin. We know about the principles of God. We know all about that. We know the Creator. So we are the one who really understand that. So second goal is uphold this international law. There is a UN Charter who say it's not allowed that one country occupied another country. What Russia is doing is against the UN. The problem is that Russia sees it differently. And you know the UN has a Security Council. Probably heard about that. And it is Security Council, that's the highest council in the world. So they have 5 members, permanent members. This is Russia, China, France, Britain, and America, or US. And the idea of the UN was world freedom can only happen when we all sit together on a table and come agree. When this not will happen, then it will collapse. So therefore, they took all the 5 winners after the World War. They took these big forces and put it on one table, and they have a veto right. That means when somebody is not agreeing with the others, then nothing will happen. And because Russia sit on the table, you know, and this is really now a challenge for the UN. Because actually the idea is that everybody is coming, sitting together, and we find a solution together. But when Russia is now going another way, the system cannot work anymore. And this will be a challenge. This will be a big challenge. Because that's what the Christian idea brings freedom, and freedom can only happen when we come up together and find a compromise. But freedom will not happen when there is good and bad people, and you think they are bad, they are good. It will never happen. So you see the challenges that we have with the UN. And I think China and all of them, they do not believe anymore in the UN. They just coming there for making business and being nice, and but actually they do not believe in this system anymore because they see it's going another way. And China's also, they want to take Taiwan, you know, probably heard that. And I think they wait until they really can then take Taiwan. They see they as their own. But anyway, you see the challenges. And then also protect of the human rights. One goal, I show you the human rights, and that there is a human rights council in Geneva as well, and there is a human rights court where you can appeal to it and so on. And then promote international cooperation. It's the 4th goal, or the globalization. But every day when you turn on the radio, you heard about that globalization is on the end. Now the world is really protectionism. Everybody is looking for himself, and this idea of help one another, support one another is also in danger. Good, and the European nation came also out of this Reformation, the idea that we need a cooperation between coal and steel. Do you know why coal and steel? Because you make a weapon with coal, and you need coal and steel to produce weapons. So therefore, they made a cooperation that everybody knows from the others when they produce weapons. So this was then an idea, and Robert Schuman, who became then the president in France, was one of them, who was in this service with these 2,000 people and so on. And another one was then the Chancellor of Germany, Konrad Adenauer. Yeah, later they included in that the nuclear that we all know when somebody is building nuclear things because of the nuclear weapon to protect freedom. And then in the end, it became the EU. Also, it's now Europe nations, and you see Switzerland is not in it, and Norway is not in it, and 2 years ago, no, last year, no, 2 years ago, there was England stepped out of it. I leave this now, but actually, it was a Christian initiative to find peace in the world, bringing people together, and look, what can we do? But this is lost, and I think now England was screamed, we don't want to be in the EU anymore because it's a threat for us. So it became a marriage on one side, or the EU dominate the countries. So I leave this up to you if this is the case or not, but you see that something is no more so clear in the EU. The ideas from the beginning is no more there. So another reform was from Germany, CDU, also was the Christian party, and these were the Catholics, not the Reform, it were the Catholics, and Konrad Adenauer and Ludwig Erhard. These both, they created a new idea. They say the third way between capitalism and socialism, we need a social market. That means just free market will not function. And we saw that in history, it will bring slavery and all this thing. But socialism is not working. We saw that in history. So what can be the solution? And they have I would say it's a brilliant idea. And this is what brought the freedom in the West for the last 70 years. The idea of social market, that means we have a social state, but we have a free market. So the market is actually free, but you have to pay taxes to the state, and the state contributed to the weaker part, to the strong, take from the strongest to the weaker through taxes, through. And in Switzerland, probably, Catherine, you know that, but Switzerland, so with the cantons, the weaker cantons, the strong cantons help the weaker cantons to survive. And actually, when we not would have this system, then Switzerland would not stay together. I mean, this is a strong thing that the stronger cantons like Zurich, the economic center, is supporting Graubünden, who is a big state, but has not that much income and that much people, but need more than Zurich, or cannot earn that much. So there is a egalization. And I think this system is a good system. It's not bad. We need some egalization to help people, social care, but not too much. Because when we do too much, then these people become dependent. They are no more initiative, and we create the opposite. And this is now with the idea of Christians' idea that everybody is self-responsibility. God made you as a junior partner to take initiative, to take risks, to all of that disappear more and more and more, and everybody just wants to profit. And so we are consumers, but no more producers. And also the West is going a lot in that. But this is social care can create dependency, can create that people don't take initiative anymore. And so it's a very dangerous thing, or? And we not have to give too much. And so you see that now in Germany, probably you heard the news, there's a big demonstration in Germany, everything is blocked. The farmers demonstrate because the state is no more paying them, paying them the same as before. But see, that for me is just like Joshua. These words went 40 years through the desert, and then they received everything. Manna fall from heaven, the quails fall from heaven. There was the rock with the water. They had everything. Were fully dependent on that. And then they stepped over the Jordan. Everything was gone. Moses was no more there who said, you have to go this direction, this direction. And now Joshua should stand there and say, hello, my friends, I have a good news for you. Supporting is over. Now you have to look for yourself. Because this is God's idea, to take in the country. How happy were they? What do you think? How happy were these millions of people hearing the message? So Moses is no more there who say you go right and left. You have to decide for yourself. Do good decisions. You have to guide yourself. You have to build houses. You have to do agriculture. You have to look for income. Yeah, how fun is it? Well, I think the West is on a place we gave too much social care, and now the West cannot pay it anymore, and they stop, and everybody is become a rebel and say, we can never survive with all the support. This is also on Africa, or we gave Africa so many things, and when we come to Africa, they accept that we give them food. When we do a program that we invite them, it costs nothing, and we give them food. But no. And we want to change that and say, no, take self-responsibility for that. You can do it. That's dignity. If dignity say, you are somebody, you can do it by yourself. You don't need just the help from the West. You can do it. I always say in Africa, the biggest lie in Africa is, we are poor people. That's the biggest lie. Africa is a golden continent. It's called the golden continent. You have more. Look to Switzerland. We have nothing. We have no natural resources. We have water. We have a bit trees in the forest. And we have grass, of course, but half of the year is snow. Nothing is growing there. The cows cannot eat something. So, I mean, comparing to Africa, we have nothing. Richness is not about money. So, to be rich is to see what God gave to you. But we created poverty in Africa, I would say, which is giving them and not helping them to understand what they have. Good, so it's a challenge, right? And here a quote from Konrad Adenauer. Probably you can help me again.
Yeah.
Read this one.
Yes. A Christian university today had an imperative task to perform. It was its particular functions to educate its students so that they might become mature and independent individuals, those who live rested on the value of religion and the best safeguard against the infiltration of the atheist totalitarianism.
Yeah, that's hard to understand.
Yeah.
But we as Christians, we have to understand this quote. We have to understand it. I mean, it's also Francis Schaeffer, if you know Francis Schaeffer. He said that we will end in totalitarianism. We will end there without God. And the Christian university were the best thing, education of Christians to stay against that. But we will end in the dictatorship. What Africa has with these pushes of Africa seeing dictatorship, what we see in Russia and China and everywhere now in the world. I mean, when we really want to stay against that, then we need education from the Christian university. So they were really convinced about that in this time. And so I say this was somehow the last Reformation. And even here, 1993, you could see that the conscious of its spiritual, religious, and moral heritage, as the EU is built on the spiritual and the religious and moral heritage that's come from the Christian. So actually, the values are clear. It's clear, it's Christian value, but there is no more Christianity in it. And so we see we were left a bit over with values. You can see Mahatma Gandhi, or he had a lot of principles from the Bible, from Jesus Christ, and so he had the principle, but he was not a Christian at all. And so you can see Martin Luther King, he was a pastor, he was a Christian. And so want to change America with Christian's idea, or Nelson Mandela as well, he never committed that he was a Christian, even his principles. I mean, it's amazing. He was 28 years in prison, and then he came out, and he was too taught. He was really extreme. He came out and preached forgiveness. Wow. Man, this man, that's amazing, amazing. But he never said something about Christianity. I think he has really deep Christian values, and I don't know how his heart could be changed. But I really have respect from this man. I really have respect from him. I don't know, but I think we need Jesus Christ, that we really can have a heart like he had. But you can see that he had really Christian principles, and it changed South Africa. But you know what happened in South Africa? Let's go back again where it's come from. So the dream of westernizing the world is over today. A quote from Carlo Manzala. He is somebody who analyzes like I did now, but on a more professional level. Or now we have to see. Oh, sorry. No. Now we have to see in the New Age, and the New Age is called after Christianity, but Christians value. It's I mean, with secularization, we can say we stepped in a world with Christian values, but we lost God. But now we are really losing God in the moment in the West. And you can see consequences. One thing is, probably you know what these statistics say. The demography, or you see that, I mean, that's Nigeria. You see, when you go up, you have older people, you have only a few older people, but a lot of young people. When you come to Switzerland, you see another thing. Huh? You have a lot of old people, or especially in 21st, at 2100. Then, but not a lot of young people. And you see that there is a change in the world, and this has extreme consequences. The West has meant that a county can survive. You need 2.3 children per wife, but Switzerland has 1.3, and Italy has 0.7. And I mean, that is increasing. Our Western society will die out, and when we only look for the natural line. But this is a fact that we have to see. And the Muslim, they go in the opposite direction. So what is the consequences in 50 years? It's huge consequences. As well, every nation, or all the young people, have to pay for the adults. And that's a goal. When the adults no more can work, then somebody else has to take care. So in Africa, it's clear you are responsible for parents. Here in the West, we have social insurance, but actually it's the same. The kids have to pay, because the kids work and they give some money for taking care, and the state is then taking control. So the system in the West, you can say whatever you want to it. It's actually not a bad system, but when you don't have children anymore, then you have a problem. Do you see that? We face a real problem, and not just we, also China. Luckily, India is not in this way, and Africa as well. We are very different, and there I see really hope in these countries, because this is a real problem when you don't have children anymore. And there is a really going down extreme. The purpose of having children get lost with losing of Christianity. One thing is be fulfilled to have children. It's nice to have children. It's your purpose. God created you for that. We like to have that. We want to have a family. But when this is the only reason, or just to have happiness and be full, so then this is weak. And I think from Christianity there was also building up security for the children, teach them value to the next generation. There is not just that we are a family, and I mean, today in the West, they put the children in daycare. The state is responsible for it, and the parents go to work. I don't think that's good, because the West want to separate family. It's just family is only that everybody finds his happiness, but family in itself has no more purpose. So when they no more have the purpose to teach and add values to the next generation and build security, and as well that more than 50% of the family get separated, divorced, and then with homosexuality and the whole gender and all what is coming, there's no more security for the children. So the only thing is just happiness that is driving us in the moment, and this is not the purpose of family. So the third one, I pay for the parents. So for Africa, you know what they say, you have children that they take care of. It was also in the West was this the idea, So and it's not an ungodly idea. Of course, it's not an ungodly idea. But we have this no more. We have no more. The only what left is happiness as a family and fulfillment in that. And they say we lost the perspective why we have children or why we have a family. And so family is just individuals coming together that they can do the best for themselves. So everybody is going to her job, his job, and want to find fulfillment in their life. And we see that something else happened in the world called the BRICS nation. So that this is already 40% of the population in the world. China, Brazil, Russia, South America, which one I missed, India, of course. And they are all nations who no more going with the Western value, who are critical in human rights and all of that. And they are coming stronger and stronger. Here are these 5 presidents of these 5 nations. Last year they made the extension, and now there are 6 countries more, and they build a new, let's say, UN, but with new values. This is dictatorship, just making money. China is coming, they will come to Africa, and I know that from Malawi, they say, China. They are against Europe. I don't know. They are Europe and America's anyway. America's gone. And I think you are no more friend with France.
No.
No. I mean, no, the Western values are no more, they can't. They don't want it. They look to China and say, whoa, China's prosperous, China's is growing, so we want to have China. And they accept all this thing. And we have to realize that as Christians. We have to see that something is going on. And I think it's because of losing the values of Christianity. That's the problem. The problem is not the practical things, the problem is the losing of Christianity. So the debts are rising enormously. And we are built on debts, but actually our next generation has nothing anymore. We're living now on behalf of the next generation, but it will collapse. And the West is creating a lot of money, also, but I think every school kid knows you can always spend as much as you have in your pocket. you cannot spend more, otherwise you have to steal it. But the wisest or the smartest university professors don't know it anymore. But I think we lose the principles of business, of democracy, and we see that no more working, and then what is the rest is capitalism. So China, Russia, they all become capitalists. They are no more socialists. They become capitalists and want to conquer the world, and they do it on atheism, no more with the Christian biblical life. We as Christians have to understand what's going on in the world. So now that's the bad news, and now before finish and start a discussion, the good news. So good news is also there is a shift from west to east, but there is also a shift from north to south. Looking at that. Also, when you look to Christianity, looking to religious, so Muslim is the most growing religious in the world, and especially because of children. I mean, they have still more than 2.3 children, and sometimes 5 or so. But in Christian society, they have really not enough children anymore. But also, they are really strong in evangelism too. And so you see all the other religious growing. But we say that religious is, the atheism was, after the secularization, atheism was growing, but now religious are growing anymore, more and more, but not necessarily Christianity. So what, see the next point, Christianity is growing mostly in Christianity, you see this, but Christianity is mostly growing where? Can you see that? Where is Christianity mostly growing?
I cannot read it.
In Sub-Sahara Africa. And it's extremely, or do you see the Western Christianity go back and Africa is coming up? There will be a change. There will be a change. And Margaret Baker, she is a missionary in Uganda. She said she's building houses for the refugee coming from Europe to Africa. Very provocative. But see, when this is true, when God is true, nations are coming and going. And when we are too far leaving God, then He will judge. Then our system will collapse. And we are in a danger that something like this happens. So what to do? Give up? No. Look for the coming back of Jesus? No, not promote that. Stand now up and start to teach nations. We have to understand that we as Christians, we are called to teach nations. And we have to find the God and what we do in business, politics, and so on. We have to find it together. That's the solution. We are called to teach nations. That's the mission, calling. Often Christians think, okay, our mission call is go to all the nations and baptize them. Oh, yeah, baptize. What should we do? Baptize nation, not individuals. And so how do you baptize nation? So Jesus said, you baptized with water, I baptized with the Holy Spirit. So we should baptize nations with the Holy Spirit. And we will have an assignment, it's called Titus, where I think it's the best letter in the New Testament will tell us how we can baptize a nation. But we should baptize nation. And this means, what does it say in the verse? What should we do? How to baptize nation?
In the name of...
Yeah, in the name of the Father. But what should we do?
Disciple?
Disciple nation. Teach them to obey the commandments. That's what we should do. We should start and build a nation. That's our mission calling. And we reduced it to baptizing people with water. But this is actually, it's not bad. It's good to do that. But this is a little part of our big thing. We have to go out and teach nation politics, business, education, science, and so on. Yeah, so let's do that. This is why you are here.